So here goes. Invention and craftsmanship began roughly 60,000 years ago. And we take our food and shelter for granted. So how come when I was in high school, anyone wanting to create or fix things with their hands to make anything was called a future? This is the image that came to mind for someone who worked with their hands, not anything to aspire to. The tacit message is that working with your hands is for losers. Many assume that those who work with their hands do so because they are unable to work with their minds. This tacit message is reinforced by educators. The idea is that we need to be successful is to learn math, English, and science. This is called the Common Core. I call it the mess. Mess is important, but the Common Core is not for everybody. It ignores the importance of creativity and the value of craftsmanship. The Common Core is not useful for many learners. We all have gifts, and using our gifts brings us the satisfaction of achievement and are often a path to happiness. We must find a way to identify each person's gifts and make those gifts the core from which their learning radiates to the mess. Education today pretty much feeds the brain in a one-dimensional way. It is the static learning. It discounts our bodies and the world around us. To many it is pointless. Creativity is implied only in the vaguest way, and if our gifts are tactile, they are pretty much ignored. For 60,000 years, humans learned, crafted, and invented using the brain, eye, hands, and senses together. Craftsmanship uses our senses in addition to our thinking. It promotes the creative process. Without our hands and eyes, our ideas cannot be realized. A good craftsperson must know how things are made. They must have knowledge of material properties and the tools and processes that transform them. This knowledge comes only through working with materials and learning their often peculiar properties. The McMaster-Carr catalog is one of many references for materials and supplies. A good craftsman must have an excellent working knowledge of its contents. To apply its materials, tools, and components are every bit as complex, interconnected, and interdependent as a legal reference. The only difference is that the craftsman must obey the laws of physics. Look around you at each thing in this room. At one time or another, each thing in this room was just an idea. It was the working of the hands and mind that made each object real. It is the result of creativity and craftsmanship. It is the magic that supports, runs, and transforms our technological civilization. I mentioned earlier that the brain working alone is one-dimensional. There is a flatness to it. So often when sitting at my computer, I come to an impasse when trying to figure out a detail, like how components need to go together to be attractive or how to successfully mold a complex part. I am stuck and unable to resolve the problem. But when I go to my shop, I just start making the components, and when I get to where I was stuck, it seems my hands had already found the solution. There is no impasse. Pictured as a mold of a chair I was developing, but could not figure out how it would work until I made the model. I'm the poster child for the idea of cultivating craftsmanship as a way to invention. I never excelled at math or English. My gifts are visual and spatial. I have a good mechanical ability, and I love to work with my hands, and I love to make things. I love the challenge of creating new and meaningful paths to function and beauty. Whether painting a person or designing a chair or machine, it all comes from the same place, the ability to draw and imagine. Drawing takes practice, it's developing a skill, it's craftsmanship. I always told my kids, if you can imagine it and draw it, you can make it real. Drawing in any medium has always brought me joy. In the 1990s, I fell in love with corrugated plastic. It's super sustainable, super green, and no one was making anything with it other than industrial packaging and signs. Developing an aesthetic for it seemed like the challenge of a lifetime. But the first thing that needed to happen was to build a machine to close off the edges in an attractive way. So here is the machine, 10 years later, and far more complex than I ever imagined. But each time something did not work, I could see what the problem was and made it better. I did this so many times before it worked well. It was just like learning to draw. It's craftsmanship, brain, eye, hands. So here's the machine. The beauty of working with new materials is discovering their surprising properties. Since these hollow core panels are translucent and lightweight, they can be lit from within, thus expanding the perception of space and creating the serenity you see here. Since the doors are lightweight, they are conducive to magic. Watch this.
It's really beautiful to look at, but what's most remarkable about this is the hinge. Actually, there's no hinge. You can take it right off. Obviously, you get the hang. And if you don't like it opening on that side, you can open it there.
I wanted to use this material in a shelving system. I knew it would not be structural for the shelves, so I tested how it would work as the vertical supports. The supports shown here weigh 8 ounces and the boxes weigh 450 pounds. I thought it would come crashing down in a few minutes, but after 3 weeks, I needed the space. Everything I design rethinks how something is made. I use my hands, mind, and eyes. This is craftsmanship. Without it, invention is impossible. It rules all art and all science. Craftsmanship makes knowledge tangible. It is a most precious human resource. Educators must encourage this resource.